Hey, it's David. Let's have some fun with the Bandit. Damage, the 1200 Bandit, needs a couple of repairs, but they're going to have to wait till the future because I need to save up for the parts I need to actually do them, and also they're not something I'm physically capable of at the moment. So instead, over the last 6 months, I've been putting together some parts for a project for the bike, and now seems a good time to put that into place. When this bike was new, it was fitted with twin front brakes. Ever since I've owned it, it's only been running the one. Now, the previous owner did give me the other set of brakes, including the old hoses and stuff, so it ought to be a fairly simple bolt-on. I need to replace the discs. I also want to pull all the calipers apart, have a look, replace all the seals, check if the pistons are okay, and so forth. Then reinstall the other caliper, reinstall new brake discs, and put in new lines, possibly rebuild the master cylinder, and then bleed through. So all in all, a relatively straightforward project, but we know how these things work. There will always be something that comes up and causes an issue. So for a start, let's turn our attention to the other caliper that's not yet fitted and see if we can pull it apart. Now I want to bolt this on so that I can crack off these bolts here, take off the brake line fitting, undo the bleed nipple. So it's the first stage of taking it apart. Now, I'm quite happy leaving these brakes. They're a good brake. I see no reason to upgrade them more than they currently are. I'm not taking it on the track. It's only going to be used on the road just as the manufacturer intended. Let's get this old brake hose out the way. I'm not going to reuse any of it. The chances are that it is actually the original brake hose. It's way overdue for upgrade, and rather than using this stock splitter system, I'm just going to go with an aftermarket hose. Of course, the moment I take it off camera to change my grip, they've all shifted now. Now this one I pre-loosened because I know just how bad these pins get. Okay, let's pull this apart. Pads are pretty good, sintered, lots of wear left, but I'm not using it. So left the seals in there. Seals look good. Pistons are not bad. A little bit of rust around the top edges. The rubber seals don't look bad here either. We have some water in here. Milky fluid. So that's 3 of the pistons out. It's just one that looks a little bit dodgy. Otherwise, it all looks good. Calipers cleaned, pulled apart, pistons are polished. Now, this is all looking good. This I'm replacing with a new, I think this is stainless steel, it's what I put in the other caliper. The rest are all polished up. These are all okay. Some of these smaller ones were a bit chewed on the outer edge. I've just roughly filed the outer edges of those, just so that when I put the caliper back together and I push these all the way in, it doesn't rip the dust seal at all. Otherwise they all look good. There's a few marks and stuff, but nothing you can actually feel with your fingers, so it looks good. We have a new seal kit, internal seals for the caliper, new crush washers for the banjo, and a new dust cap. So these are all scrap. This is now ready to go back together. Then you'll be able to... There we go. We can apply final torque when it's built onto the bike. That is the caliper rebuilt. Now I just have to do that to the other one. This is day 2 in the shed on the brake rebuild project. Now, yesterday I rebuilt the calipers except I had to stop halfway through the second one because I've had to order 2 of the smaller calipers. They were both quite badly pitted down far enough that that would have interfered with the seals. So new pistons on order. Let's move on, and today let's look at the brake discs. I've pre-loosened these bolts, so we won't have too much of a struggle with those. I think I might have overdone the thread lock when I last changed this disc over. Okay, out with the old and in with the new. Let me show you what I'm replacing this with. It's a bit loose and wobbly. So this is what's going on. This is a Moto Master Flame disc, and I think the style of it suits the bike very well. This is a sort of a more extreme cooling disc, so lots of relief for the air. I'm going to do some clean-up work here, run a tap through the threads, get these bolts cleaned up, do the same for the other side, and then we can install these discs. This is the direction of rotation. The direction of rotation is marked here, same way. Do the other side first. Ooh, I think these are going to be fun. Now we're on day 3 of the build. To be fair though, I'm only spending 2 or 3 hours or something like that every day on this because I'm still building up strength in my arm and I don't want to overdo it. Anyway, pistons are in for the other caliper, so first job is to get that rebuilt and back on the bike, and with that on the bike we can look at fitting the lines and then putting fluid in. Now off camera I did rebuild the master cylinder. It's not a big job, it's not that easy to film, especially with this, to be honest. I'm making excuses, as you'll realise. Next time, okay, maybe I'll film it, but really the only difficult thing with rebuilding a master cylinder is getting the circlip out, and if you haven't got the right pliers then just forget it. It's just going to be a nightmare. So I had a pair that just sort of worked, but yeah, otherwise easy job. So let's get on. And we're most of the way there now. Brake calipers have been rebuilt and fitted and torqued up. The brake discs have been fitted and torqued up. So everything is now ready to go. What we need to do is to put the lines, the new lines on. Now I'm going for what are sometimes called racing lines. So in other words, just 2 single lines straight down from the master cylinder. It's the most simple one. It's the one that gives you the least problems when it comes to bleeding. None of this over the wheel nonsense that just is a big air trap in the system. So it's a good system, it's an efficient system. I've just got to figure out the routing and bolt it on. I've got the cables on. That's as much as I'm going to say about it. I'm not a big fan of the routing that I've ended up with. As usual, this hose is a little bit too long and this hose is a little bit too short, and that was the longest one that was put that side. A bit more playing with the brake hoses and I'm happier with the routing. I found that where I'd put it before, when I had it on full lock here, it did actually foul against the oil cooler. So I think I'm good. So with the handlebars here, this is reasonably flat. So let's take this off and start bleeding. Now I am going to be running initially an air bleed only, which is to say that I'm just going to pour fluid in the top and I'm going to pump the lever to get the fluid to travel down. It takes a little while for this to happen, but it works very well. Anyway, enough talking, let's get on with it. Takes a little while to get going, but you can already see there's air coming up. And don't forget, so we started out no fluid in here, no fluid in the lines, no fluid in the caliper. Everything is completely empty except for air and dry. Same principle as tying your brake lever back overnight. Brake upgrade for damage, the 1200 Bandit, is now complete. Complete rebuild overhaul of the system, new discs, rebuilt calipers, new lines, repair of the master cylinder, new fluid. There's not really much else you could change. I say the calipers are great calipers, there's no reason to change them, and the brakes need bedding in. Otherwise, job done. I'm really happy. Really love the look of the discs, and can't wait to look forward to riding the bike. So thanks very much for coming with me on this, and I will see you again soon.